Hey, everybody. Woo! Good morning. Hey, this is Randy, the news guy, and welcome to Hot Off the Press. Beautiful day here in sunny Cleveland, if you can believe that. It is middle of March and it is sunny here. Usually we're still like clouds. I don't know if you guys know anything about Cleveland, but I think we are second only to Seattle for the most cloudy days in the country or something like that. We have like 280 plus days of cloud cover. It's crazy. So it's sunny today. I'm loving it. Hey, welcome to the show. Got a great show today. I'm really excited. We have a guest. I met this guy. I don't remember what. Probably a year or two ago, and I'm excited because we got a little bit of commonality, and we'll hit on that in a second. But he has got some really fun stuff. Yes, yeah, yeah. I love this comment right here. There's sun in Cleveland. Yes, there is, Joe. Very crazy. Hey, Pamela, good to see you. Thanks for jumping on this morning. But I met this guy again, probably 1 or 2 years ago, and I saw him just recently. I think it was at SEO Rockstars. He did a great presentation on how he is reporting results with clients, and I've asked him if he would kind of share a little bit of that with the audience here today. So, pretty excited to have him come on board, and let me give a little intro. I don't know. This guy has been in SEO for a bit, and he currently has an agency in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. How often do you even reference South Dakota? But bring on my new good friend, uh, Pete Kleinjan from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Tiger 29 is his agency, and so that's pretty exciting. Let me pop that up as well. I forgot to do that. Boom. Pete, hello, brother.
Hey, Randy, thanks for having me. It's awesome to be
Yeah,
here.
there you are, right there. I got your mug. It's a good
That's
shot
right.
of you. There you are. Yeah, that's right. That's me. Yeah. And Tiger 29, here you are, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So, a little bit more background here with Pete is that, and I think as soon as I heard that, wow, somebody's from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, I, um, I actually went to my undergraduate college, university. At that time, when I went to, it was called Sioux Falls College. I think now it's called the University of Sioux Falls, a nice little small liberal arts college. I think when I attended there, I think they had about 1,000 students. So to give you an idea of how small it was or is, it probably really hasn't grown that much since then.
No,
I'm guessing.
about right around there. Actually, I think their master's degree and doctorate degree programs have done really well. They've got great business programs there now.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I've heard that as well. I've not been. I have not been one of these alums that have been uh, um, high on the active alum list, but it's been fun. It was a good experience for
Oh,
me.
and college football fans will recognize University of Sioux Falls as
Oh
well.
yeah, that the yes. So this is great. So this is probably the most famous thing that's popped out of this. So he the college football coach at that time I think was University of Sioux Falls, but this was like a number of years ago. That coach then moved on to a few other places, ultimately landed at the University of Washington, who then took that team to the national championship. I think
Yep,
they lost.
yep.
Um, but now, and then right after that, that guy, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but that
Kalen
guy now
DeBoer.
is, what was his name?
Kalen DeBoer.
Oh, there you go. So you know him because that's a local news for you. So now he's the head coach at Alabama. So like,
Yep,
wow, from all of my college roommate, he was like, wow, can you believe this?
yep, yep. Oh, and this will give you an idea for South Dakota and Sioux Falls. Is my brother played high school football against Kalen DeBoer. And
Oh,
he's from a
wow.
small town here in South Dakota. So like everybody knows the guy. Like people
Yeah,
know him here, and it's a pretty cool thing for us to see him go to
that is
Alabama, and hopefully they
crazy.
start playing a little better.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Shout out
Well,
to
that's
Derek
good.
Pierce.
Yeah. Oh, you grew up in Pierce, South
No, no,
Dakota?
no, no. I was
Oh,
giving a shout out to a buddy, Derek Pierce, who is a huge Alabama football fan,
oh,
and he was real excited to talk about Alabama football and Kalen DeBoer the last time I saw him.
yeah, very fun, very fun. Well, Joe Marichik from Loud Egg says he met you in Austin. He was at that Austin Mastermind?
Yeah.
That was a crazy show then. Woo! Man, if Wild Pete was there,
Oh
was
my
his
God.
sidekick Brian Wenham, was he there too?
Yeah, Brian was there.
Oh, the 2 of those guys together, look out. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. That was a crazy night. Yeah. Before we went live, I'm not gonna repeat that, but before we went live, I was shared a story yesterday from Craig Campbell in regards to an event at that, mastermind. I'm like, "Oh, man. Oh, yeah, yeah." I should have known if Joe was there, all hell was breaking loose. Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, Terry, good to see you, brother. Thanks for popping on. All right, so Pete, now that we're reminiscing, um, give us a little background here. What is the Pete? And am I pronouncing the name right, Kleinjan?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too picky about Klein John is how we say it in the family,
Kleinjan? All
but
right, sorry.
outside of the family, we don't care what you call us as long as you call us.
Yeah, all right. Got that. I got to get that South Dakotan, thing in there. Kleinjan. Okay.
You
All
might
right.
hear a
So
little
Pete,
Fargo accent out of me today too.
yeah, is that where? So where are you from?
So I'm from a small town called Bruce in South Dakota. I grew up on a farm.
Yeah.
Bruce's claim to fame is they call it the honey capital of the world. The largest honey producer in America, privately owned honey producer, is in Bruce, South Dakota. 80 honey farms is what it's called.
Wow. I would have no idea. Well, here we are. We're just a couple of old farm boys. I'm a farm boy from Nebraska. So that's where I grew up in a farm in Nebraska. So now we're like, hey, let's talk a little SEO and cow milking. And
Yep.
we raise pigs and corn and cows. So, yeah. All right. Um, so give us your background.
Yeah.
So you're out of Bruce, probably, all of that fun stuff, and then here's my man Craig. Yeah, Craig, we already referenced the show or the story. Didn't go into detail, obvious, but we referenced this your story you shared yesterday. Thanks, buddy. Um, geez, funny as hell. All right, so background. We're trying to get on the background for good old Pete. You moved from the farm where the Craig, you would respect where I stood there with my oh man. Yeah. Um Background, Pete. Hit it.
Yeah, so I grew up on a farm in South Dakota. When I went to college, actually, my college degree was elementary education. I was going to be a school teacher. Got done with college, and believe it or not, at that time in 2002-ish or 3-ish, it was really hard to get a teaching job, like especially in the town that I wanted to live in, Sioux Falls. There was just an abundance of teachers, hard to get a teaching job. So I took a job.
Everybody wants to move to Sioux Falls. Like no
Yeah, that's
taxes, low cost of living. South Dakota is like,
no,
it's like
that's what it was. Is you had people who maybe the husband worked at a bank and the wife was a school teacher, and so like it was a magnet city, if you want to call it a city, even in
yeah.
South Dakota here. But yeah, it was hard to get a job, so I took a job at a credit card company, HSBC Bank, doing credit card collections, which was awful, as you can imagine. But it was really great training for my next job because I was on the phone for about 10 hours a day, basically asking for a sale every 15 minutes. Can you pay your bill? How much can you pay? That kind of stuff. Um,
Oh,
the job that I got after that was I was a salesperson for a company that sold wheelchair accessible vans, and so vehicles for people with disabilities. And the owner of that company, Bob, had a background in the car business. And so in 2003, he was heavily investing in Google Ads, which was a little bit new at that time. Google was only maybe 5 years old. And so we were buying clicks for, 50 cents a click and selling
man.
$70,000 vehicles on the internet. And it was going very well. As a salesperson, I had downtime. I was sitting around waiting for a call back or whatever.
Right, right.
And I knew that our leads were coming from the internet. I knew that if I got more leads, I would get more sales. And so I went to Bob and I said, "Hey, Bob, is there anything I can do? I've got downtime. Like, how can I help?" and he managed the ads campaigns, and he didn't want extra fingers in that pot, especially from somebody who didn't know what they were doing. But he said, hey, go talk to Adam. Adam was our systems admin guy, built the website. And Adam sent me the Wikipedia article for search engine optimization. And I think it was kind of a BS test where he was testing me to see, like, does this guy really want to help, or is he looking for easy money, low hanging fruit? Well, I read the whole Wikipedia article, clicked on the blue links, like read all that stuff, went back to Adam and said, hey, what's this mean? What's this mean? How do we change these? How do we do this? And so he kind of knew I was serious maybe at that point, and gave me FTP access, showed me how to use FileZilla. Like it was a
Wow.
custom site, so it was a really great way for me to cut my teeth, because there was no
Yeah,
one-click WordPress installs in those days. Uh, and so I really, in my free time at my sales job, I started doing search engine optimization. And got pretty good at it. Over the next couple of years, we became, if I remember right, we became the number one dealer in the country for one of the manufacturers, and the number two dealer in the country for the other manufacturer. And when we got this award, we went to this conference, get up on stage, and literally got booed off the stage, because because every other dealer in the country couldn't stand us. We were selling
sure.
vehicles in California, Florida. We sold some in Saudi Arabia, Hawaii. Like,
Yeah, baby, make it rain.
yeah, it was a fun time, and it was a fun company to work for. Um, and from there, like I kind of transitioned over to, well, what was going to happen is the manufacturers were going to cut us off. There was discussions about we weren't going to have product to sell, because even though we were 20% of the industry, whoever solved the us problem was going to capture the lion's share of the other 80%, because the dealers would side with that manufacturer. And so
Sure.
Bob went to the manufacturer, said, hey, what if we did this national marketing campaign for you guys? We would stop selling all over the country. One of the manufacturers got on board with that. And then these other dealers started calling Bob that had booed him off the stage, and said, hey, can you do some internet marketing for us? And
Yeah.
that's when he started his marketing agency. My wife and I had our first daughter around that time. And I said, hey, I can do this stuff from home. Could I do that? Which was kind of novel at that time. And he was okay with that. And then he knew that I wanted to own a business. And I said, hey, what if I started my own agency, and you were my cornerstone client, or my first client? And he was good with that too, which was amazing to have a
Oh,
boss like
really?
that. And so he was my client from 2009 when I started the company until 2020 when he sold his company. And so it was a really great way for me to get into the business, really
Yeah.
learning on my feet, and learning through practice. I always kind of joke that, like, I'm not sure there's anything such thing as a SEO expert. Like, we're all just kind of practicing SEO. It's kind of like you talk to a lawyer, and they're not going to say, like, I'm a criminal defense expert.
Right.
They say,
Right.
no, I practice criminal defense, because everyone's different. Every situation's different. The circumstances are different. The sites are different. The links are like, everything's different.
Yeah.
We're just here practicing, and some of us
Yeah.
have more practice than others.
That is a really refreshing view on it. And I never really thought about it that way. But I think you are absolutely right. Because to be an expert means that you just kind of know everything and you are the go-to. But at the end of the day, and especially in this industry, it changes so fast and so frequently. Nobody can be truly an expert, but practicing SEO. I like that. Yeah, I'm a practicing SEO. That is a really good way. Yeah, I love that. That is so funny that, so aside from our South Dakota connection, my kind of entree into SEO and digital marketing is almost very, very similar. I had a separate company. This is years ago, back in 2008. I was doing something, and I was like, okay, I had this new division that we were kind of building out, a call center. I'm like, so I built a website, and I started getting into paid ad campaigns because of that. Had some good success, and then some friends of mine who are in the industry in other parts of the country, I'm like, hey, can you do that for us? And it just kind of rolled from there. However, I didn't have like a good national cornerstone client. Like, man, what a great way to like go
Yeah,
launch an agency, right?
yeah,
Knowing that,
super,
well,
super
I can
lucky.
keep the lights on here. I got this guy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nice, nice, nice. And you were probably the expert then in selling wheelchair accessible vans at
I
that point.
knew I knew a lot about, and it was nice, and it really like was the consolidation of a bunch of factors. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
kind of was an expert in wheelchair vans because I sold them. Like people would call on the phone, and I would have to be
yeah,
able to describe how it works, and here's the ramp, and you push the button, and like these things. And so I really did. And you talk about like semantic relevance or like those types of
right.
things. Like as I was writing content for the
I
site,
mean, you knew this stuff. Yeah,
right?
I mean, you would be, yeah,
There was no research involved. I could just
yeah,
write what I need. We didn't have to hire
yeah, yeah,
copywriters or that kind
yeah.
of stuff, and so it was a neat experience.
So let me ask you a question because I'm a part of a group that really promotes as agency owners and operations really of niching down on your subject and your agency. So many folks in this group are niche down on whether it's roofers or plumbing services, or a guy's going to be on our show here in I don't know, in a month or so. He niches down on spray foam insulation companies. Did you ever think about that? I mean, I don't know how big that wheelchair accessible van, niche is, but and you could broaden that a little bit. But did you ever think about that when you were kind of starting out with the agency and then looking to expand?
I haven't really thought about it before, but now that I do, I think I reverse niched because I started out very in a very specific industry, and today, kind of the way that we describe our client base is brick and mortar, privately owned, service based businesses, and so that is kind of I feel like it is niched down a little bit. Like we don't work on e-commerce or affiliate or like any of that stuff. It's national campaigns. Really, we're not the best people for that. But like when we can work directly with a business owner, have conversations with them, and do work and measure it in a way that they understand and
Mm,
that they know is impacting their business in a positive way, it can be a powerful thing for that business owner. I think it can be really freeing for them in a lot of ways. Like
mm.
there's kind of a joke in marketing that like, hey, 50% of your marketing dollars are working. You just don't know which 50%. And so if if you can answer that question a little bit, even like it's
Yeah,
and I own a small business, you own a small business, like we've got problems in our business and we're trying to figure things out and make the puzzle pieces fit. If there's a piece that we get to fit and we're confident that it's in the right spot, we can move on to other problems in our business now.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
and so as a marketer, just in general, and as a search engine optimization professional, like niche down a little bit from there, I think that's a big deal for business owners to like have confidence that this is working and have confidence in terms that they understand.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, so now that you've grown, your agency, uh, do you have clients kind of in all different types of industries and then all over the country, or are you primarily kind of serving more a bit more locally and focus on attracting more local clients? I don't know how big the digital marketing space is there in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, but
Yeah, I was thinking about that too, and I think it's probably um, more competitive here than you would expect. I think that uh, it just the background and the community and things here. There's definitely a lot of advantages to those as well.
mm,
Um, it's been a great place for me for sure.
yeah, good, good. And folks, just as an FYI, so Sioux Falls, at least when I was, now this is years ago, right? So I don't even, when I lived in Sioux Falls and I lived there, well, all through college and then about a year after college, actually, I worked as an admissions counselor for the school for my first job after school. And then, but then I want to say that the population was roughly about 125,000 or so. I don't know what it is up to now. I actually took my son there 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. We were coming back from a big road trip out west, and we were looking at colleges. He's a freshman at Michigan State right now. but kind of through that, it was summer. So it was the summer of his junior year of high school, right after his junior year. Um, but we cruised through Sioux Falls to go take a look. So that was the last time I was in Sioux Falls. He was like, "Yeah, Dad, this I'm not sure this college is for me," kind of thing. You know, he went to Michigan State where they've got like 50,000 students. But that was the last time I was in Sioux. It had grown. I mean, it was different. I don't know. What do you got now? Is it
I think they say in the metro area, which is also kind of a little bit tongue in cheek, maybe. But the metro area, if you combine the little towns around the outskirts, is 300,000, something like that.
okay? Yeah,
It's a
metro
pretty
areas like okay. Once you get outside, then you got like 3 cows that
yeah.
reside over there,
If,
and
if you see
yeah,
cows, you're not in the metro anymore.
yeah. All right, so you got some local clients there. All right, but and then
Uh,
you're
and
kind of all over though, in the sense
yeah,
from a services standpoint, right? So you
and kind
do
of kind of the joke I always say, and it's half a joke, is 70% of our clients are in South Dakota. 70% of our revenue is outside of South Dakota, and so we've got some really nice, healthy clients in Chicago and California and
yeah,
Florida and that
nice.
kind of stuff. But we love I love small business, man. I
Yeah,
just want to and you think about all these cool new things that we're doing with AI and servers and
right, right.
link building and all these things. And you've got these small business owners out there who just want to compete. They want to send their kids to school and buy their kid their first
Right,
car and
right,
like how we're going to
right.
figure out how to pay for college and and they don't have time to do it themselves. They don't have resources to pay
Yeah,
$3,000 a month for a campaign. But if we can help them, if we can improve their situation,
yeah,
that's a win, and they
yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, I love that. That's exactly what I love. I love working with local businesses, and for all of those same reasons, I love sitting down and talking with them. I'm the client facing person. I like to be the account manager on our local stuff because I love talking with the business owner for all of those same reasons. I'm like, hey, I'm just like you, right? I worrying about paying for my kids' tuition. I'm, got a small business, and like I need to make the phones ring and all of that fun stuff. So
Yep.
yeah, I love that. I get a lot of satisfaction out of that as well. And yeah, that's a good time. So what are the things that you did at oh, and by the way, folks, if you have questions or whatever, drop them into the chat, the message, wherever. We'll get them up here to Pete and tap into his long-term experience in SEO, practicing SEO. There we go. um, but you did a presentation at SEO Rockstars that was in Vegas back in November. I don't know if that was, that was not the first, I think the first time that we met, now I'm kind of spinning this together here. Was it Craig Campbell had an event in Las Vegas called Digital
I
Unfiltered? It
didn't
was
make it to
about
that.
you
No,
weren't there?
I
Where
want
the hell did I meet you then?
I
It
wonder if
wasn't a
was it
Rockstars.
when Terry had didn't they do a spring training in Dallas?
And not in Dallas. Terry always does spring training in Phoenix.
There was something in Dallas.
So there was an SEO
Was it
Rockstars
Rockstars?
in Dallas that was maybe 2 years
It was
ago.
kind of right coming out of COVID. Like it kind of felt weird not wearing masks
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Okay, so that's where we first met. Okay, all right, there we go. Um, well, at the last Rockstars, you did a presentation that I just thought was brilliant. I loved your approach in how you report out results and progress with your clients. And I'm hoping, share to whatever detail you would like, but I would love if you want to share your screen, we can make that happen. But I would love for you to like kind of walk us through that and your philosophy on it, and then what it is that you do, because I think it's a great approach. And folks, if you're thinking about how do you present reports and how do you present results and all of this, listen to this, because this is I've not heard in this before, but I think it's fabulous. And I will tell you, I would love to kind of migrate to this, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So and it really starts with the SEO origin story that I told,
Mm,
where I started doing SEO because I wanted more leads and I wanted more sales. which really is why business owners want SEO in the first place. Like,
Right.
rankings are an indicator, traffic is maybe an indicator, but at the end of the day, if they feel confident about more leads and more sales, that's what they really want out of any marketing campaign. And so what we did, I think it was maybe like 2016, 2017 is when we really started doing this, and it's been refined quite a bit since then, is this concept of a high value action. So what is it that you want somebody, well, Mr. or Mrs. Business owner, why do you want SEO? Well, I want to rank number one. Well, why do you want to rank number one? Well, so people come to my website. Why do you want them to come to your website? So they look at my services. Why do you want them to look at your services? So they call me. And it's like,
Right.
well, what if we measure that? And again, we work with a lot of small business owners who the budgets aren't big. And so things like call rail and those types of things, like we might not have the budget for it. And so how can we measure those high value actions, those things that are providing value to the business that we can stamp or keep track of? And so that's what we do is we define with that business, what are the things that we can measure that are going to move the needle for your business. And most often it's things like contact form fills, phone call pushes, either on phone numbers on the website or on the Google Business Profile. A lot of times we'll measure contact page views, and that I would say that's a low value, high value action, but it's an indicator of that person taking the next step. So if we can say, hey, Mr. Business Owner, sometimes we do direction requests too from Google Business Profile, because if you're a jewelry store owner, for example, you love to see direction requests growing over time. It's an indicator that you're getting better visibility on organic search, and people are taking the next step towards walking through your door and talking to a salesperson. And so we define those things, and then we measure them. And we see what happens. And so what's really cool is, and I think this is true in a lot of SEO campaigns, is early on we find some low-hanging fruit or things that are a problem. Maybe pages aren't indexing, or sometimes even we come across sites and they've got no index on the site. And so it's like, well, why aren't I showing up in search? Well, uncheck that box there and we'll have some improvement. So you get that low-hanging fruit and you see, hey, month one we had 30 high-value actions, 30 people not only found you on organic search, but took a next step that indicates that they're becoming a customer. And then, hey, month two, we had 50 high value actions. And now we see progress from the very beginning that, hey, this is actually moving the needle in a way that's going to benefit the business. Mm-hmm. Over time, what happens is, and we love when we can work with somebody for at least 13 months, which is an odd number. The reason for that number is once you get past 13 months, you can compare this July to last July. You can compare December to December. And so it's more of an apples to apples comparison. You could imagine taking on a real estate agent client and you take them on January 1st and you get to June and you go, oh my gosh, we're rock stars. Like, look at these high value actions.
Right.
Well, the real estate market is slow in the winter and heats up in the summer.
Seasonal. Yeah.
Or imagine you take on that client July 1st and you get to December and you go, oh my gosh, we suck at our jobs. We're not generating any leads here. Well, there's seasonality there. And so at 13 months, you get that seasonality a little bit out of the picture. And you can say, hey, last July, we had 30 high value actions. This July, we had 80 high value actions. And then that business owner, in their mind, sort of checks that against their real world experience and goes, oh, yeah, in the last year, we had to add a receptionist. And we were able to buy 2 new service trucks. And it's like, everything's kind of adding up. And it's a little bit anecdotal. We don't do call recordings or that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And high value actions are not leads, but they are the things that every lead does. And so,
I was going to say, it's kind of the indicator, right, that something is working. Is right. Like if you're getting sick, maybe one of the first, like your temperature begins to elevate, right? So this is kind of that concept. Yeah, it's the leading indicator. Like, leads are starting to come in. The activity is happening.
And they feel it usually. I mean, a lot of times where they feel it, and the other thing too is though, let's say you've got an auto repair shop and we're able to generate 2 more calls per week for that auto repair shop. Is that something where they're going to be pulling their hair out and going like, oh my gosh, like, what? Yeah. They might not even notice it. But over time, that shows up in QuickBooks, and it shows up in their billable hours and their hourly rates and that kind of stuff. And so, and then the cool thing too with high value actions is then we can come up with a KPI, cost per action. And so you say, hey, you're paying $1,000 a month. We got 10 high value actions. Your cost per action is $100 per action. Now, if you're a coffee shop selling coffee, not so great. Like you're going backwards there in a big way. If you're selling $70,000 wheelchair vans and you're able to generate prospects for $100 a piece, or even if 1 out of every 10 is a real prospect, like, hey, it cost us $1,000 to get that lead to make that sale for $70,000. And then it's just math. Like, is it working or is it not working? But just like Google ad campaigns of, hey, we're willing to pay $300 a click for DUI lawyer Los Angeles because the math works, and so it really takes the emotions out of it. We love to have conversations with clients where we get away from these things of, well, it seems like the rank tracker's showing, analytics is showing. Well, here's a little bit more concrete information about whether or not, and you get situations too where you take 2 different keywords, plumber, which every plumber wants to rank for, or you get emergency plumber. 2 different search terms. One of those search terms is going to be a phone call in the next 30 seconds. And so if you can get visibility.
Guess which word, folks.
But if you can get visibility for emergency plumber, you're not going to light the world on fire for traffic, but you're going to feel it in the QuickBooks and in the company financials. And so, and then the cool thing too is you do that over time. So, hey, our leads are or high cost per action is $100 per action this month. It's $90 next month, $80 out like that. But that's what you want to see, is that trend coming down. And we love when we can get that metric to a point where, let's say you're paying $10 cost per action,
right?
And you go and you look, and a Google Ads campaign is $15 a click.
Right.
Now we get to say we're generating for action. We're generating actions for less than a cost of a click that you would pay to Google.
Right.
And maybe 1 out of every 10 of those clicks. So you're paying $100 per action on Google, or you're paying $10 an action with us. And it becomes, I think it really crystallizes in the business owner mind that, hey, this is part of the 50% that's working.
Yeah. No, this is why the piece that I love what you're doing and your approach on it is because, I think it is absolutely spot on in your approach with a client, because at the end of the day, it is the action or the activity in their QuickBooks that matter the most. It's not like, we ranked #1 for blank. Who the hell cares? If you're not making money on it, it doesn't really matter, does it? But this idea then that you've been able to essentially kind of create a metric that is meaningful, and as well that kind of makes a connection, like same as like a cost per click, right? It's like, here's a number that absolutely makes sense. You're paying for an activity on Google AdWords with, at a cost per click. Here is your cost per action of folks coming to your site, or what it is that we're doing in our marketing efforts. And so you're like giving them a hard number that makes sense to them.
Hopefully.
And and I think, so I say yes. And you said, hopefully. Kind of a follow-up question that I had with you as you're kind of talking about this, how much kind of education or teaching of your clients do you need to do to kind of like make this like kind of click with them?
So I think, and I try to be intentional about this, and I do have a big tendency to ramble on, and then I lose my train of thought and have to come back.
I wonder if that's a Midwest thing, because I tend to do the same thing.
Yeah. But really, like, it really starts with very early on with clients, like that initial prospecting call where I think that I'm trying, and you probably heard this before at conferences or things like that, but like I'm trying to evaluate whether I think that prospect is a good fit for us too.
Right.
Where if we get on that initial call and it's all about rankings and, this guy's been ahead of me for years and I don't understand it, and like these are emotions,
Right.
and we want to be in the strategy space and in the logical space. And so we try to shift that conversation. I tell them my story, and I think that that resonates with business owners too, because they remember when they were 25 years old and finding their way in the world, and they've made some progress, but they know
Right.
how much work needs to be done. So I tell them my story, and if that resonates, if that high value action, if that cost per action metrics resonate with them, that's we're checking off boxes now, and it becomes a. And I think too that typically the way that it kind of goes is there's a lot more conversations that happen in the first 3 months, where we're, when we send our first report, we always do a share screen video call where we go through the report and explain the different things that are on there. You're going to think this is crazy, Randy, but our almost, unless a client is asking for it and we're happy to give it, our reports don't really have any information about rankings, average positions. Like, we have one slide from Google Analytics showing organic traffic compared to last month or last year, because that's how the sausage is made. Like, and
I know.
like, and we're happy to show you how the sausage is made. Like, come on back to the back room and we'll show you whatever you want to see. But most people, I think, just want to go to a ball game and eat a hot dog and have a good time. They're not thinking about, like, how was this thing made.
Right.
And
Right.
so we try to really keep the conversations focused in on what's important, so that the business owner also keeps his mindset on what's
Yeah.
important. And it seems to work pretty well. And we don't hit home runs every time, like we practice SEO, so hey, we've got a lawyer client. We did this and everything went great. We got a lawyer client. We did the exact same things and it didn't go as great. Why is that? Well, you'll drive yourself crazy trying to figure that out. And I think most people who've been in SEO for a long time have experienced that,
Yeah.
in some way, shape, or form. But that's another cool thing about this cost per action and high value actions is, even if you have a poor month, let's say, and your cost per action goes from $10 to $15, we try to have that conversation that, like, okay, it's not working as well. Are you saying that at $15, you're losing money on your SEO campaign now? Well, no, it's just not as good as it was before. Let's keep going here, and maybe we'll get back to as good as it was before, or even better. And especially during economic downturn, we have and it's a little bit outside of our core business, a logistics company on the East Coast. And when COVID happened, like, they were nervous and they were concerned about a lot of things. And they kept doing search engine optimization at a time when other companies were pulling back, and they gained market share when times were tough. And then when they pulled out of those slow times, it just their business has grown phenomenally. And logistics in general has been good the last few years,
Right.
but
Right.
their business has outpaced just the industry growth because they gained ground when everybody else was pulling back with alligator arms on marketing budgets.
Right. Right. Uh, I was just going to ask you, so when you were talking about kind of the $10 to $15 kind of movement with that, I was wondering about that. Like, do you kind of hang yourself out there a little bit to doubt when you do have that such great number and you're like, okay, and then then they measure it like, well, the last couple of months it's been, that action per dollar has been increasing, not decreasing, right?
Yeah.
So those kind of probably tee up some different conversations.
Yeah. It's a little scary as an agency owner, because, yeah, we've been doing it for a long time, and generally it goes well.
Mm,
But you're also kind of putting your neck out there of, like, hey,
yeah.
here's the God number. And
Right.
if the God number doesn't look good,
Yeah.
we are in apocalypse.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it is a little bit scary. I also think that, like, there's a lot of agencies out there that build websites and don't install Google Analytics
Yeah.
and don't install any type of
Dude, that
performance.
is so funny. We just took on a new client a couple of weeks ago, and this has been a site that has been up uh, 7 years, something like that. And I'm like, okay, hey, and we always send out a thing like, here, boom, 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 boom. And this guy sent me an email back like, what is the Google Analytics? What is that? I don't think we have that. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And
And I'm not
crazy,
I'm not,
right?
I'm not even judging those agencies. I think that it's a scary thing though when you say, "Hey, look at this beautiful thing that we built," and then what's it really worth? What's the value there for the business if you don't and if you don't know analytics and look, it's a scary thing to put yourself out there and say, "Hey, I think I can do this. I'm gonna stand on my own 2 feet, and I believe in the work that we've done in the
Yeah,
past, and I
yeah.
believe we can do it again, and I'm gonna show you." You
Yeah.
know,
Well, that's one of the things that I have to tell you, Pete, that I'm so impressed with you and give you a lot of props is that your approach to the industry and the results and dealing with your clients is like transparent and accountable. I mean, like throwing that number out there, the cost per action is like, that's a number. Then you're saying, we're going to be accountable, and here's how you can measure us, right? That is like a good number. It's not, it's a good KPI. It's not like, well, it's the ranking kind of fluctuates, blah, blah, blah. It's like something they can understand. And I love your approach, though, just being transparent and really trying to demonstrate your credibility. Yeah, that is good.
we try to be,
That
yeah. I mean,
that is the refreshing voice that our industry needs so
and I
much.
think too that like in our industry, I feel like people feel this need to like pound their chest when things are going well, and we all duck and cover when they're not going well, and like we really have the approach with business owners that like, hey, we've got a track record,
Yeah,
we've got some good experience, we're going to do good things for you, but we don't have a 6 month guarantee number one, or anything like that. Like, hey, if you go from page 8 to number 8, you will get more high value actions without a doubt, you know.
right.
But it's a lot harder to go from number 8 to number 1 than it is to go from page 8 to number 8.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so, hey, let's get in this for the long haul. This is a business development, business growth strategy. Just like when I was at the wheelchair van company, we didn't go from small little wheelchair van company in T, South Dakota, to number 1 in the industry in 6 months. It
right.
was it was a 3-4 year deal where we this was a small business website, Randy, and we had probably 500 static pages talking about the products and the different things like that were built out over time, mostly by me, as a part-time job on the side
Right.
of selling. And it was a business growth strategy. We didn't have to do a lot all at once. If you make small incremental changes over time, it's crazy how far you can go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we got a couple of questions. I just love your approach, Pete. Got a couple of questions, and I'm going to take the one that just came in, and then maybe you can go in and hit this off. So when you're starting out, this is a good question. What's the most effective strategy? So you started your agency, you had those great cornerstone client, but your first client, though, as an agency, how do you how when you're think about when you were first starting out, how did you go about beginning to demonstrate your effectiveness and expertise?
So, and this maybe is the part of the podcast where we talk, like, for people sitting out there thinking that we're running like an 8-figure agency or something. Like, we're just a small agency. We've got maybe 50 clients or whatever. We're small. Like, we don't have everything figured out either, and that's why I go to conferences, agency conferences, and that kind of stuff. Is like, how can I make my business better?
Yeah,
Honestly, the thing that I would probably say number one is have as many conversations as you can with as many people as you can about what you're doing and what you're trying to accomplish for people. Um, and I don't know if you've experienced this, Randy, but there's times where you're in a room and maybe somebody in there has got an e-commerce site and they're selling handmade sweaters or something like that. And they hear you do SEO and their eyes light up and they think, oh my gosh, like this is it. I'm going to be
right,
a millionaire
right.
now, and it's like, well, if you have those conversations, number one, you know who to say no to or who to
Yeah,
isn't a good fit, and then you're just going to naturally come across more prospects who are a good fit. And so it's no different than dating. Like if
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
your mission in life is I'm going to get married by the time I'm 30 years old, but I'm only going to go on dates with gals who fit these very specific criteria for me. Well, that might work out. It might work out. But maybe a better strategy is go on a lot of dates, talk to a lot of girls, have a lot of fun, and chances are real good you're going to be married by 30. Well, same way with business and like, hey, talk to a lot of business owners, knock on doors, go to
Yeah. Yeah.
networking events, like just have a lot of conversations, and you're going to get matched with the right kind of businesses.
Yeah.
Um, and I joined early on, maybe not so early on. Thinking about that client that I had that was a cornerstone client, at some point I was kind of nervous, like, oh, you go through ups and downs. What if I lose these guys?
I know, right? Yeah. Yeah.
And so I joined a BNI chapter, a
Yep.
networking chapter, where we go every week and we talk, and that was a way to keep the wheels turning while I was having all these other conversations in the community and online and
Mhm.
with anybody that
Mhm.
would listen about
Mhm.
how great SEO is. And I think too, be excited about what we do. Like
Yeah.
you maybe can pick it up even on this call, but like I think like if you're excited about what you're doing, it's hard for other people to not be excited about it
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
And so, and I think that's one great thing about it. I do all of our customer relationships and that kind of stuff and sales and all that stuff right now. Um, it comes across where
Yeah.
larger agencies, it's a sales guy and they just beat you over the head with data and tech
Right. Right.
terminology that you don't understand. And finally you just throw up your arms and you're like, oh, these guys seem smart.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
let's do it. Where if you're excited about what you're doing, that's exciting, and who doesn't want to be a part of that?
Right. Yeah, and I think it comes across as well when you're talking to clients or prospects, that you're excited and that because they capture that enthusiasm thinking like this guy's going to get excited about promoting, marketing our business. So, they feel, like that just comes across as warm and genuine. So I
I think
agree. Yeah.
even going way back to the wheelchair van days with Bob when we went to the conference and it didn't go well. You have a happy hour at the end of the day, and it would have been real easy to go back to the room and just watch ESPN, see what ball game was on or whatever. Bob made us all go down to the happy hour, and he was shaking hands with a smile on his face and basically letting these people know that, like, hey, we're butting heads in business right now, but I'm not a bad guy. I know you're not a bad guy.
Right. Right.
And so it left the door open. He didn't burn any bridges. It would have been real easy for him to walk in there
Yeah.
and go,
That's
I'm hot
nice.
stuff. But he
Right.
didn't burn any bridges, and it left the door open for more opportunities later, which I also think is an important thing. And these things roll up over time. I've been doing
Mhm.
this independently since 2009. In 2010, I didn't have this stuff figured out yet. And I still don't know if I got it figured out, but I'm practicing.
Well, I will tell you, I think you have half of the game already won when you recognize, I'm still figuring it out, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're already kind of making it. And I will tell you, just to add on to it a little bit, what you kind of talked about, digging into your community and then trying to, just talk to as many people as possible. So, some real practical stuff. So I know I did the same thing. I was part of BNI locally as well. I actually was in a couple of different chapters at different points. I'm also very active in our local chamber of commerce. Last year I was the president of the chamber. I've been in the chamber for, I don't know, 10 years, something like that, 12 years. And so that was always, I go to all of those mixers, everything that's going on, always talking about, what it is that we do. Pull a lot of prospects coming through that activity. So I think you just get in and you put yourself out there and just and get into as many different scenarios as you can where you're talking with other business owners that would be potential clients for you. I think is a good way to kind of start and get rolling.
I think it's
Um,
in our
yeah,
industry too, because so many of us are just naturally introverted. Like
yeah,
we
yeah,
would love nothing more than to sit at our computer and click away at keys all day.
yeah,
But if you can get out of that zone, which is a real challenge for me, like
yeah,
it's my nightmare to walk into a conference where I don't know anybody, which is one of the like. I'm so happy that I've gotten to know people like you and Craig and Brian Cotto and like all these people that I know now, and they're great relationships. I love all you guys, But most of all, I could go to a conference and I don't have to
Oh,
bring like a
oh,
lead
there's
document.
there's there's Randy. Okay, great.
Thank goodness someone is here that I know, Um,
Yeah. So how about this question? So now you've been in the biz for a bit. So what do you do now to acquire clients for your agency?
Honestly, this is probably the biggest challenge that my agency has right now. And if you think of a garden hose strung out across the yard, and you want water to flow through that hose, where are the kinks in the hose? Well, we don't have good rankings, and we don't have good processes, and we don't, we're working out the kinks. Well, at some point, I'm the kink in the hose because we either can't, like, hey, what if we don't get any new clients next month? Well, what if we got 10 new clients next month? Well, I can't
Yeah.
handle that myself. Like
Right.
so we've got to figure out another kink in the hose. Um, and so but acquiring new clients is a challenge for us. We've grown through word of mouth, where either through those community conversations, whether
Yeah.
virtually or whatever, or we have a happy client and they're neighbors with somebody who owns a business, and it takes off from there. That's not scalable, and so that's the challenge that I have right now is how can I create something that is scalable? How a farm kid here. So when my grandpa was a kid, they threshed wheat, right? They
Right.
would have pitchforks and they're throwing the wheat
Yeah.
all around
Right.
the field
Right.
and threshing wheat. Well, today we have combines. Like it's a better machine, and so that's one of the challenges that I have, is I'm trying to build a better machine at my agency so we can harvest more wheat.
Right.
And so
Right.
that's a big
Yeah.
challenge for me, and it's something we're working. One of the things I'm excited about it. And it might not be the thing for your audience with SEO professionals and agency owners is we do these search engine optimization on Zoom, which is a great thing for small business owners. It's $150. We get on for an hour. You share your screen. You log into Wix or WordPress or Squarespace or whatever, and we'll spend an hour together and we'll actually make changes to your website. Now, is that search engine optimization? It's search engine optimization like Olympics is getting in the pool for a swim, right? But it'll be better. Like you will see improvement. And we've had those calls
Right.
where it's a no index issue where they're not showing up on search. They've got the
Right.
box
Right.
checked. Super simple solution for the initial problem, but we still take the rest of the call and go through and, hey,
Right.
here's how you change your titles. Here's how you change your descriptions, H1, H2, H3, paragraphs. Let's put an alt tag on these images. Let's write all this stuff down while we're doing it. So then you, the business owner, can go back and do it later. And that's been a good prospecting thing for us too, because it gives us a chance to demonstrate our expertise. And the
Mm-hmm.
first
Mm-hmm.
the first third of that call is education. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
this is what SEO is: local pack traditional search results.
Mm-hmm.
This is how we believe we're going to influence Google. Here's where Google is looking for these signals. Now let's look at your website. You
Right.
see
Right.
where these things aren't in alignment, and then
Yeah.
it builds that credibility throughout the call. And typically we get good reviews from them. So that's hopefully going to be something that comes along here in the next 6 months, is these SEO on Zoom,
Yeah.
where we can help just about anybody.
Yeah, I love that. I was just going to ask you, how are you promoting that right now? Is
Right
it
now,
on your,
I am
I was,
promoting it right now, Randy.
oh, I was just looking at your website. I'm like, do you have that listed on your website somewhere? I love the idea. I think it is like a really very cool, way, but I'm like, okay, how are you doing that? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's I've been a little shy about it, and maybe this will. How about if people wanna, if anybody listening is interested in this sort of thing, I'll find me on Facebook and I'll post a link in my feed on Facebook, and you can
There
sign
you go.
up for SEO on Zoom call.
Yeah, there you go. Uh, it's so funny. A question that I wanted to throw at you. By the way, I'm very similar, but my position is a little bit different in that um, when you're talking about scaling and or acquiring new SEO clients, um, but you mentioned something. It's not scalable. It's in a group that I'm in, we talk about predictive leads, right? How can referral and maybe some of the other points of lead flow for your agency. You can think you probably got social media, you've got your own site, right? You've got word of mouth referrals, any of the other stuff you might be doing. Maybe you've got your own podcast or your own YouTube channel, but you're doing the various kinds of things. You might be doing email stuff out there. Um, but none of that is necessarily predictive, such as maybe like doing ads of some sort, right? Of even doing, Facebook ads or wherever. And so having that source of predictive leads can be, very helpful for you. But a question that I wanted to throw at you, because this hits with me, which is, you said like, well, because it's not very scalable. My business, SEO business, I don't necessarily want to scale, right? I mean, I have my number of clients. The piece of the business that I am wanting to scale is our press release and links business. That I definitely want to like crank that. My SEO business with my SEO clients, we do take on some new clients, but I'm very judicial. Like, do I want to work with them? Do I want to work in that niche or with that business? If I don't, I pass them on. Like, I refer them over to Terry Samuels. Terry, I got somebody for you, right? Uh, and there is a piece like I personally, I don't want to have an SEO agency where I have 100, 200 clients. My mindset is not there any longer in my life, right?
Right.
At my point in my life, that's not where I want to be. Uh, and so I'm very happy with having my smaller agency because that's where I want to be. So how about you? Do you want to scale? Do you want to have an agency of 250 clients? I mean, is that the
So
direction you want to go?
that's definitely not why I started the company. Uh, we had our first kid, and I just wanted to have a better life and not go to an office every day where I had to be there at 8
Right.
and stay until 5 and that kind of stuff. It's maybe a little corny, and I still like so fortunate in so many ways. Got a great life. Um, a big motivator for me is I've got incredible staff, just incredible, and I want Tiger 29 to be the place for them.
Right.
And a part of that picture is they need to make money to have the lives that they want to have. And so
Right.
what does that mean? Well, Tiger 29's got to be more profitable so we can give raises and bonuses and those kinds of things. Uh, and that honestly is a big motivator for me right now, is like taking care of the people who are here. Because frankly, Randy, like, and you probably know this in your different businesses, there are things that they are doing that I don't know how to do anymore. Like
Oh, yes. Both that they know how to do better than me,
right.
or that they know how to do it. I'm like, oh, really?
Yeah.
Or something like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
like,
so like
yeah,
I need them,
yeah,
and I want them to be here, and they're great. They're great people to work with. They do great work for our clients. They get like our philosophy and like our values and like all that
right,
kind of stuff.
right.
And so that's a big thing, is like I want to keep them here. And we don't do, and I know this is a thing, and I'm not throwing stones at anybody, but all of our employees are, we don't do any offshoring. We don't do anything with VAs or anything like that. Um, and that's maybe another thing that matters to those small business owners, is if they're focused on number one, results no matter what, keep the cost low, like that kind of stuff, or are they like, hey, I want to provide for my family better. I want the people who are working with my business to provide for their families better. Like, this rising tide can lift all of our boats.
Right, right.
Um, so yeah, that's really like, and like, if you doubled the size of any agency in 12 months, like, it creates more problems than solutions.
Yeah,
And so we kind of pull back on the reins a little bit too, of like, hey, we want to
yeah,
grow in the right way and with the right
yeah,
clients. And
yeah.
uh,
Well, and the challenge is, and when you start talking like that, is, you then pull yourself out, become and being less of a hands-on in the business necessarily dealing with clients, that kind of thing, to more of the conductor of the business, right? Of like being sure you've got everybody in the right seats and all of the seats are filled so that they can deliver the results and the experience for your clients that you want. And that's a little different. As I
but
say, for me, I like talking with my clients. I like talking with prospects. I love the calls with them. And so that keeps me engaged in that side of the business. And yeah, so
It's tough too because like I like doing the work of SEO. Like I think Monique one day I was telling her that like one of my favorite things to do is work on 301 redirects and 404 pages and like and part of it is it's like something concrete. You can do it,
yeah,
and when
yeah,
it's done, you can tell that it's working the way that you
yeah,
wanted it to.
yeah.
Um,
Dude, you're a little bit of a nerd too, then. Yeah.
yeah, give me a spreadsheet with a bunch of 404s on it, baby.
Good for you. Good for you. Well, listen, Pete, man, so good to talk with you. I just, you're so refreshing. I love talking with another farm boy. It just doesn't happen in our industry all that often.
No,
So,
no.
listen, folks, and if you'd like, you can connect with Pete. I just dropped his, here it is, into the chat here. You can go reach out to him, Tiger29 .com. And how did you get that name, by the way, Tiger 29?
This will show you how much of a marketing genius I am. Is I read a blog post and it said like you should have an animal or a color and a number because those things stick in people's minds. So that's literally it. And 29 at the time we were saying there's 29 core elements on your site that need to be optimized.
Ah, okay.
Title, description, H1, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And then at that time too, the governor of South Dakota had a I-29 corridor economic initiative, which I thought I was going to capitalize on and ride that wave, but
There
that
you go.
didn't go
Yeah,
the way that I
that
thought.
didn't go. I love that. Well, again, very similar. I might have read maybe that same article or a similar article because that's why my agency is 38 Digital Market.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
because
think it was written, if I remember right, it was written by this guy Craig Campbell, maybe.
maybe. Funny. Well, listen, Pete, again, thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate it. And so great to talk with you and look forward to seeing some Zoom SEO optimization calls. I want to see that in action, right? Next time we talk, are you going to go to spring training, by the way,
I am.
SEO spring
Yeah.
training?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
good. So when I see you that first week in May, I want to hear about, yeah, well, this is how we launched our optimization Zoom calls. That'll be fun.
Nice.
Um, Folks, next week on the show, I'm going to be dark. I'm not going to be able to do a show next week, but then our next live show, will be April 1st, April Fool's Day. And I've got Clint Butler on the show April 1st. So join us there, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Should be a good experience.
Clint is
And
one of those guys where I think I get about 70% of what he's talking about.
oh,
And
man,
then the other 30%.
that conversation will be like right here, and I'll be like trying to like coming up for air whenever I can. Yes, exactly right. But anyway, hey, thanks again, Pete. And folks, as I always like to say, we'll see you in the headlines. Thanks for being with us.